We are here with a sit-down with Mayor Jeremy Jensen to find out how his administration is going so far. Mayor, you took office in December and you've got a city administrator on board in January. Why don't you start off telling us how you're going to fill out the rest of the administrative team? We know you just recently appointed and filled the council with all 10 members, with Jeremy Jones being in Ward 1. What's the latest with the Human Resources Director and the Finance Director position?
Currently, right now, we have the Finance Director spot advertised, and we've received some applications from that. It's a nationwide search, and that was priority 1A for us to get that started. But we're also, I believe next week, we'll start advertising for the HR spot as well. We thought it wouldn't be a good idea to put them both out at exactly the same time, and so we wanted to stagger it a little bit, but we're definitely moving down that path.
What's the timeline to get someone in place?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
I think
Yesterday.
I think the reality is we want to make sure that we get the right person and not do something too quick just to fill it. But it's going to be a lengthy process, no question about it. I would say that the reality is maybe 90 days from now we should have a pretty good direction in terms of what we're going to do with the finance spot anyway.
Are you looking for someone with municipal experience, or could it be someone from the private sector?
I think either or. In an ideal situation, we'd like to have somebody that has the experience, but I think the main focus for us is finding the right person and how they fit in with the team and a lot of those types of characteristics. And so and fortunately for me, I've got somebody that in the city administrator spot that's been through this before, understands the importance of it, and so I'm really going to rely on Marlon to help out with that decision. Okay,
why don't you talk a little bit about how this start has been for you, and specifically the time commitment, because I know I've seen you in meetings, sometimes different meetings over 4 hours in a day. How are you managing this with your family, with your job, and then soon to be soccer season?
Yeah, well, it's not easy, but it's something that I really feel like I've got a natural talent of doing. I don't get too overwhelmed too easily. I'm very organized. I also understood that the first 90 or so days was going to be rather intense because you have a transition of not only me coming into the position, but also then Marlon coming into the position, trying to understand what it is that the roles that each one of us are going to play in the day-to-day operations. And so, I see where things are starting to settle themselves, if you will. I understand there's a lot of meetings that are very regularly scheduled, and so once we get that type of stuff on the calendar, it becomes a lot easier for me. And then, quite honestly, because of technology, with technology, I'm always connected to my business, my family, and City Hall. And so everybody has access to my calendars, the emails, my voicemails flow through to my email. And so usually when I get home in the evening, I need to take a couple minutes just to kind of decombust a little bit. And then usually I've got one of my kids wanting to go for ice cream or something like that. But it's something it's not easy, but it's definitely manageable.
So are you keeping regular hours at City Hall?
Not necessarily. I mean, there was actually one day last week where I wasn't here at all. And so it was neat to actually get to that milestone, but because of the connectivity, I still knew what was going on. And I actually had a meeting with some of the leadership with the police department and off-site, and then I was at Helix. And so, ideally, I think when things essentially settle down, I'll be here usually in the mornings and then out at Helix in the afternoons, and that's obviously going to have some variance, but most of the stuff that I do at Helix is also regularly scheduled. So my clients call, set an appointment, so I don't really have drop-ins or anything like that. And then with technology, as I said before, I have my computer here with me for work, and so if should something pop up, I have the ability to pull up somebody's account and do whatever I need at that point in time.
Okay, so what do you see as some of the major issues, maybe the top 3 issues that are going to come forward once you get the team settled, as you say, settled? What are some of the big issues coming forward?
Well, I think from my standpoint, as I've said all along, I want to be a facilitator and a collaborator and an administrator. So I'm really going to rely on Marlon to do the day-to-day operations and be the chief operating officer here. And so for me, it's more big picture thinking. And the biggest picture is the combination of those visioning plans and making sure that we're continuing to move down that path, because I think that really sets the stage not only for the city but also the community, the EDC, the chamber, the CVB, getting all these folks to work together so we have a singular focus going forward. And being the catalyst to bring that together is really important to me, so that way we all know what we're working towards. There's other things obviously that we want to do. One is having a retreat with the council members. We actually talked about also having potentially a retreat with the department directors and just talking about the continuation of the process and whether it's prioritization or some of those types of things. And so, but my main focus has been just the positive energy and getting people excited about being a city employee or being a resident of Grand Island. And I would tell you that the first 90 days or so, if you would have asked me, what would it be like, so far it's exceeding that. I mean, it's been incredibly positive.
Well, I noticed you've been stopping in on some topic meetings, housing, you've been in on that, beekeeping,
yes, even.
Do you have some thoughts on some of those subjects?
Yeah, I'll start with housing. I think that there's obviously a big shortage here, but the reality is there's a really big number there in terms of what it is that we need to do. And so we're going to have to prioritize that as well. And there's going to be a lot of people that have a lot of say in that. But for me, just from a personal standpoint, I think that as a financial advisor, new construction is becoming more and more expensive, and it's difficult for developers to make a profit. And when you start looking at $150 a square foot for new construction in some situations, that's cost prohibitive to a lot of people. And so what I'd like to see is really a concentration on the senior housing, because there's an incredible shortage. There is hundreds of people that are on the waiting list right now trying to get into just even the HUD eligible housing, or if it's something really nice, even from like a Riverside standpoint, or some of those types of deals. But I think that if you start creating a lot of those townhome living, the maintenance free, I think you'll have a lot of the older generation move to that, and then when you do that, it creates an inventory of other homes here in town.
Of single family homes.
Right, that can now be purchased for a fraction of what it costs to actually build a new house. And it's more attainable in terms of the finances, and then maybe you start having, would you rather purchase a brand new house for $200,000 or buy one for $110,000 and put some money into it and start renovating? And so I think that's, for me, a big thing, as well as the downtown housing. I really think that from a young professional standpoint, I think it really would make sense to be able to recruit people back to town if we have a vibrant downtown. Whether they're lofts or flats, downtown here. And so that's important to me. The bee issue, I'll tell you, it's one of those topics where I feel like I don't think I could support it, to be honest with you. The reality is that I think we have a responsibility to maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods. And I know personally with 3 children that if my neighbor wanted to raise bees, I would be very apprehensive to that. And if that's the way I have a gut feeling about it personally, I have a hard time saying, let's open it up and allow it. And I understand, in the meeting yesterday, there were a lot of very responsible people in there to do it the right way. But it also creates a bit of a Pandora's box that, okay, now what's the next thing? And we had a chicken debate before, bees, what's next? And I think that I want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhoods, and I just think there would be a lot of pushback if that really gets too much.
I bet when you ran for mayor, you weren't thinking you were going to talk about bees. There's a variety of subjects that come up when you're mayor.
That was not something that I prepared myself for the debates, let's put it that way.
Okay, well, we appreciate your time today, and thanks for joining us for a sit down with Mayor Jeremy Jensen on the start of his mayoral career. Thank you.